Hey, peace. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of We Charge Colonialism podcast and book club. I'm here. My name is Ikemba. I am a member of the Public Relations Committee, and I'm here with Frank and Deja. Y'all want to introduce yourselves?
Yes. Hi, everybody. Hi, Kemba. And hi,
All
Frank.
right.
I'm Deja. I'm part of the public relations team as well for We Charge Colonialism.
All right. Is Frank with us?
I think he's still trying to come on, or is still loading, it looks like, from my end.
Okay. All right. So we get Frank, we'll keep things going, but I want to appreciate everybody for tuning in to our podcast and book club this morning as we discuss different books and we go over weekly current events. And so during our weekly roundup portion, which we'll do now, we want to first start off with the police incident in Virginia. Deja, you want to speak to that particular issue?
Yeah. Basically, what happened is where the second lieutenant, his name is Karen. I believe Karen. Hold on, bear with me for a moment. My internet's acting a little weird. Yeah.
Okay. Actually, we can show a video of the incident and then we can go into it.
Yeah. If you don't mind, we can play the video first, and then I'll go further into it. But it's about Lieutenant Karen.
Open the door! Get out the car!
U.S. Army officer Karen Nazario was driving on a dark road in rural Virginia last December when police pulled him over for a missing license plate. What happened next, he and his attorney say, was a case of racial profiling and police brutality.
My hands are right here. What's going on?
Get out of the car now!
I'm honestly afraid to get out. Can I?
Yeah, dude, you should be. Get out!
Windsor, Virginia police officer Joe Gutierrez pepper sprayed Lieutenant Nazario, even though his hands were raised and he was not resisting.
Get out of the car!
Don't reach in there. My hands are out. Please. Please, look. This is really messed up. My dog is in the back. My dog is choking right now.
Get out of the car!
Nazario repeatedly asked the policeman why he was being assaulted.
Get out of the car right now! Now!
This is not how you treat a vet. I'm actively serving this country, and this is how you're going to treat me? I didn't do anything. Whoa, hold
The policeman ordered Nazario, who was unarmed and wearing his military uniform, out of the car and knocked him to the ground.
Why am I being treated like this? Why?
You're not cooperating. Get on the ground!
Why am I being treated like this?
Nazario has sued the Windsor police for violating his constitutional rights, alleging assault and illegal detention.
He was not resisting in any way, shape, or form. His hands are clearly visible, and he is the one that remains calm when these men are threatening his life. It's absurd.
Nazario, who was not charged in the incident, says the policeman threatened to damage his reputation in the military if he told anyone about how he was treated.
They knew they were in the wrong, and then they threatened to destroy a man's career if he called him out on it.
Nazario had temporary license plates displayed on his vehicle. Virginia's governor has ordered an independent investigation. The Windsor Police Department has not responded to news media requests for comment. Officials from the town of Windsor, Virginia say Gutierrez has been fired. Rob Reynolds, Al Jazeera.
All right. So that was a video clip of the incident that took place in Virginia. So yeah, Deja, you want to speak to that particular issue?
Yes. Basically, as you can see, he's in uniform, and no matter what, no matter how high up we get in anything, no matter what profession, no matter what age range, no matter what, we're still going to get harassed by the police. And not only that, he got pepper sprayed, and the way they were holding like their guns towards him was just, I mean, that was crazy. It was ridiculous. And you would think at least him being in uniform, they would have some respect. But again, we are Black in America, especially people of African descent in America. We're not going to be treated correctly. And this incident just proves everything that we've been talking about. I mean, since the beginning of when this country even started.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it definitely spoke to how Black people in this country, you know, this is someone who many would probably categorize him as Black and brown. I'm not sure how he identifies, but this is someone of African ancestry. And we know that people of African ancestry in this country have been dehumanized since the very founding of this country. And it made me think in 1855 or 1852, around that period of time, there was the Dred Scott decision, which said that Black people, the opinion of the court said that Black people did not have a right that white people or this government was bound to respect. And that's because we weren't considered citizens of this country. So Black people, African people, no matter if you was enslaved or if you was free, they made a legal precedent during that period of time that Black people were not considered citizens. And so we weren't afforded the same rights as white people or white counterparts in this country. And so it's this dehumanization process that has been going on for hundreds of years here that leads up to what took place in Virginia, where you have this man in a uniform, young man, 20 years old in a uniform, who said, you know, I'm on active duty. He's a lieutenant. He stated these things, and it still didn't matter. You know, it doesn't matter if you're a lawyer, doctor, serving in the military. You're still, what takes precedence over all of those things in this country is your racial status. That's the status that takes precedence over every other status in the United States of America. Maybe different in other places, but when we're in America, the color of your skin is going to take precedence. So, you know, I think that's what this video is speaking to. And the other part of it is that this is someone who is the nephew of Eric Gardner. Eric Gardner, so he saw his uncle in the videos, these videos, be choked and murdered by the police. And to have this encounter, I know it was very it was a scary moment for him. He even said that he was afraid because witnessing a relative of his be murdered by the police had to be traumatizing. So yeah, I mean, it's just so much in this video. But you know, Frank, you wanted to add on to the discussion?
You know, this is what been going on in America here. So this was just one of the moments that we were so fortunate to get it on video again. So this happened in December of last year, if I'm correct. So December of last year, this police officers been still working. He been working as a police officer. He's still been working. So nothing was done until this video came out recently, and then it started making news, and not even headline, but because we start sharing it on various platforms and start talking about it. But looking at the whole thing, this just going to prove that no matter how we as Black people, we as African can defend this nation will never defend us. You can see that clearly in the video. They saw this guy, these officers, or this security guy, hands up in the air throughout the whole time. And they intimidated him. They provoked him to the extent that he should even react so that they can kill him. And then when they kill him, they will have a reason to prove that this was the reason we shot him and we killed him. Because you told this guy to come out of the car. At the same time, you telling this guy, don't move. At the same time, you telling this guy, put your hand in the air. What do you want for this guy to do? And after you spray this guy, pepper spray him, and then you tell this guy, to come down, and then he's even telling his officers, his other officers, do not go in our car. If you telling this guy do not go in our car, why are you telling this guy to come out? To the extent that this guy even said to them, okay, then I'm reaching for my belt to unbuckle my seat belt. And then this guy, because he said that, taking that if he don't tell them and he reached for it, they will kill him, because they already know that he's a scammer guy. He got a weapon in there. So if he don't tell them I'm reaching for my belt to unbuckle myself, they're gonna shoot it. And he's like, yes, do it. And they gave him order to do it. And second, he told these people, I'm not coming down, I'm afraid. And he's telling him, yeah, you should be afraid. You see, yeah, you should be afraid. It have a whole lot of meaning. Yeah, you should be afraid because you are a nigger. Yeah, you should be afraid because you are not a citizen in this country. Yeah, you should be afraid because you are still a slave. Yeah, you should be afraid because you are a black man. Yeah, you should be afraid because the inalienable right that is applied to white men, it doesn't apply to you. Yeah, you should be afraid. It doesn't matter whether you are in our military. You should be afraid. You don't have right. Yeah, you should be afraid. It doesn't matter whether we send you overseas to go and fight a useless war, and to put money in politician pocket. You should be afraid. You have no right. It means a whole lot of meaning. You see it? And then one other video that I watched also in similar situation with another civilian, but he was a white guy sitting down in his car. And this white guy told the officers that he have a gun. He have a gun. He have a gun with him in the car. And he told these officers, and then the officers pointed a gun at him, and he told the officers, do not point a gun at me, put the gun down. And those white cops, what he did, he put a gun in his pocket, and he's begging this white guy in the car, please do not shoot. Please don't do this. Please don't do that. And he opened the door of the car, and the white guy shut the door back. And the guy told him, I'm leaving. And they had a K9 door. They did not release the K9 door on this man. And this man drove and went. And it did nothing. And they begging this guy to not shoot. They begging this guy. And then the guy commanded them, put your gun back. And he put his gun back on his side. So that just go to prove that the kind of America we live in as a black man, that we are seeing as a threat. Now, the thing here is, I watched, a comment. Let's say I saw a comment. I was reading a comment, and somebody said, instead of us saying they hate us because we are black, we shouldn't say that. We should say they hate us because they are white. We should give them the negative instead of we putting the negative on us, because almost all the atrocity in the world, white people committed. All the bad behavior, they committed it. So we should say they hate us because they are black. They hate us because they are evil. They hate us because they are not human beings. And so we should turn the negative aspect to them.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's good to have, these conversations, because sometimes we get duped into believing like these are isolated incidents. When we let the mainstream media control the narrative and control these conversations, what we end up doing is, going back to our homes and living out our daily lives as if this isn't happening more than it's supposed to. And so, talking about this, let's just say if this never was brought out and we never had this conversation, what happened to Nazario in Virginia, just think about it. If this came out earlier, maybe Dante Wright would still be alive. If something was done about it, because that pepper spray could have easily been a gun. Remember in the situation with Dante Wright, she thought that, at least she said that she thought she pulled out a taser, right? But it was a gun. So what if this other cop, in this situation got nervous and he reached for his gun or his taser, thinking that he's grabbing pepper spray? I mean, anything can happen, right, in these situations. So, it's important for us to have this dialogue, and hopefully, more people join this discussion, and we start to talk about this in our homes, and even take this to our local officials, demanding that we have a change in policing and police policy. So yeah, I mean, Deja, did you want anything last before we move on to the next topic?
Yeah. But we don't even see this just dealing with adults. We see this dealing with children, how they're mistreated by the police. Like, this stuff is very important to talk about and also to watch. Like, it's bad that we have to teach young kids about this, but I mean, we have videos of 14-year-old girls getting body slammed on the ground by cops. And not only that, it makes it easier for like just people to think it's okay to do stuff like this. Like, I don't mean to bring this incident up, but it just happened not too long ago. It was a 19-year-old. She had got beaten by a 6'5", 250-pound bar owner, and nobody did anything. And I mean, it's okay to do this to us. This is why it's important for us to talk about it, but it's also important for us to learn how to defend ourselves, because if not, I mean, it's just going to continue happening. And then we don't believe in getting guns. We don't believe in learning how to protect ourselves. That needs to be something that we do in mass and together. But I mean, that's all I had to add to it. And not only that, but with the officer in Virginia, what made it even worse, it was like they were antagonizing him. Like Frank said, they were like giving conflicting commands, and he thought he was going to be murdered. And the fact that he's related to Eric Gardner, it's crazy. It's like the same incident with Dante Wright. His teacher, his aunt found out his teacher, Dante Wright's teacher, was George Floyd's girlfriend or fiance. Like, all of this is so connected. It's terrifying, but we need to know this information and we need to defend ourselves. But that's all I had to add to it.
That's a fact. Defend yourself. Defend ourselves. That's a great way to end that conversation on that topic. So moving on to our next topic. Frank, you want to introduce our next topic?
The next topic here is about Thomas Sankara, the leader, the independent leader of Burkina Faso, the land of the upper right, who was assassinated by his own friend, Blaise Compaoré, in 1987. And now there's a news that he's going to court for the incident to be charged. And I think there's a military court. I think the military are behind it. There's a military court in Burkina Faso that is trying to indict him, to take him to court. But from what I've read, Blaise Compaoré is denying the allegation that he assassinated Thomas Sankara. So the issue right now is actually in court. They are taking it to court, but he's denying the fact. But in 2014,
did we lose him? You hear?
Yeah, not sure.
We lost him. Okay, I think we lost you, Frank. So if we get you back, we'll let you continue that. But let me move on to the next topic. And if we have time when he comes back, we'll pick up. So I want to move on to what's been taking place in Mozambique, former colony of the Portuguese. Recently, there has been a series of massacres that have been taking place. Key town in Mozambique has been taken over. We'll let you go after this. All right, Frank?
Yeah.
So just some key points that what's been happening in Mozambique. So in late March, an armed Islamist group attacked the gas-rich town of Hama in the country's northern Cabo Delgado province, inflicting mass civilian casualties and displacing tens of thousands. Even today, they're saying like millions of people could be displaced as a result of what's taking place over there. The attack came within hours of a French energy giant Total announcing that it was resuming operations at its Mozambique liquefied natural gas project. And so you had a $20 billion facility under construction in a nearby Afungi Peninsula. And so I just want to, stop there for a second. So what's happening in this town, we have to realize Mozambique, half the population of Mozambique is living underneath the poverty line. You have extreme poverty in Mozambique, despite being rich in resources. And so this is a pattern of what's taking place throughout Africa, where you have foreign countries who are coming into these countries and being able to exploit and gain wealth off of the resources of the land, where the people who are actually living in these areas are not reaping the benefits of it. And so with capitalism, there's always this in the long run, this is going to bring economic development, where it's always at the expense of the people who are living there right now in extreme conditions and who are dying as a result of this so-called development. And so this group that is being singled out is being connected to ISIS. But what is happening, though, part of the story, which you're probably not going to hear a lot of, and I'm not here defending the actions of this group, but this is a group who has been marginalized for decades by the government, not able to practice their religion freely, and not being incorporated into the mainstream economy there. And so you have a people who have been oppressed and exploited, and they're taking it out, and they're probably taking it out, for the most part, taking it out on the wrong people. The wrong people always get hurt in these situations. But it's the ruling class that are the ones who are creating these conditions that's causing conflict among the people, the masses of people in Mozambique. So that's what's going on in Mozambique now. Just wanted to see if anybody had any thoughts about what's taking place.
DJ, you want to go in? You have anything to say? You then can come in.
I can go after you. It's fine.
Okay. Yeah. So you see, with the issue of Mozambique, like as I read, also watched the video. Right now, in another way that we can look at the whole situation in Africa as a whole, we should know that these imperialist nations, they can go as far as doing anything to get what they want. As I watched the video, there was a guy in Mozambique. He was relaying the information to, I think, the Black Power knowledge or something like that. So he was giving the information to them because I was asking him, like, who are the major perpetrator? Like, who are they? And he said one thing. He said we should also be cautious or careful of the imperialists. How they gave out the information, like BBC. Why should a BBC come and give reports about issues that are happening in Africa when BBC is sitting down somewhere in London or whatsoever? Why should CNN give information to us that, for example, the incident is happening within Africa, is happening to Mozambique or whatsoever? Why can't we give the story as it unfolds, as we see it? But how can the imperialists who are behind the incident come and give us the news? You see, so they are not going to give us the actual news of what happened. And he said something. He said, where the incident is taking place is where the oil is. It's not taking place in anywhere, but where they have the resources. That's where the incident is taking place. And he said, and the French government is there, and the French government have gave how many billions of dollars for that particular area. So could it be that this incident that happened there occur so that the people can leave that setting that will enable the French government to go ahead to extract the oil or the mineral resources from that area, because you cannot leave the citizen in that area to go ahead to extract the ore or to get the resources. You have to let the people go. But now, if you do it peacefully to let the people go, the people will be aware of what is on that soil. And the local government or the local authority in our area will want for that resources to benefit the resident in our area or the nation. So say they don't want to do it, what they do here is create a carrier and capitalize on our carrier. So bring war, these people that's a place, and let the people move and go ahead to extract the resources. So these are the things we're going to be seeing in Africa now.
Indeed, indeed. Deja, did you want to add anything to that before we move on to the next topic? Oh.
Yeah, the people on the ground, like, it's always bad. Like when outside forces, especially old colonialist like forces like France, the US is a colonial empire, but like when they come in, when they have interests like regarding what to report in certain areas, you best believe it's always resources or something behind it. They'll come in parading it as, oh, infrastructure projects or just trying to help the people, but they're really going to get the government involved in loans that they can't pay back. It's everything is happening like this simply because of colonialism, imperialism, colonialism, and it's still going on like now. Like the only thing is, it sucks because like it goes back to like Thomas Sankara, like this kind of thing happening, like leaders like that, leaders like him, leaders like just Patrice Lumumba, people that don't want outside forces trying to control their country. But I mean, I don't know what else to say. Like this is just, it's sad at this point, and all these people are dying because of outside forces just wanting money.
Yeah, I think those are great points, and I like how you described it. As colonialism, imperialism. Huey P. Newton said, "The power is the ability to define phenomena and make it act in a desired manner." I think it's very important that we do describe our social phenomena in such a way. Because knowing what the problem is how we come up with solutions to resolve these issues. We sit around here and describe it as like capitalism, for instance, sounds pretty, but at the end of the day, we're talking about colonial capitalism, a parasitic system that is like looting, bleeding African communities dry and other oppressed people. And so, it's important for us to be able to make those distinctions when we're talking about this system. The colonizer is going to describe it and define it in one way, but we have to describe it and define it in another way as it relates to us and our experience. So Frank, you want to close us out with the weekly roundup? You're on mute.
Yeah, with Thomas Sankara, we're running out of time, so I'm just going to close so you guys can give your thoughts. So yeah, so that's the issue right now. So he's in court. So the question here is, why do they have to wait after 34 years, and then before they're coming out to take Thomas Blake and Parry to court? Why that order happened? Is it because Thomas Blake and Parry is about to bring out the secret of the imperialists, of the neo-colonialists, how Thomas Sankara was killed? So now they are leaving, from behind, trying to dump him under the bus. So these are the questions that we have to ask as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, I think we need to like look further into that, because I want us to have a longer discussion around that, because it speaks to neo-colonialism, this particular issue. And I think, Deja, you talked about how a lot of leaders were undermined, assassinated, undermined, exiled from their nations because they held a stance that was counter to the stance of the imperialist powers. And so, as a result of that, many of them paid the ultimate price and so forth. So this is something that we're still dealing with today in the eternal colony of the United States, but around the world. But I'll leave it at there. I'll leave it there. Deja, you want to add anything?
No. Basically, everything is rounded up. I mean, we do need to have a longer discussion about leaders, especially leaders that were murdered, exiled, or just like disgraced because of colonial influence. It's important that we have that type of conversation because it doesn't just happen in Africa. It happens just a part of the America. It happens in the Caribbean and in South America.
All right. So that ends our weekly roundup. Again, appreciate everybody sticking in with us. We're going to make this transition to our book reading. But before that, I want to encourage everyone to go to our website, to shoot us an email and find out how you can be a part of We Charge Colonialism. You can email us at info@wechargecolonialism.org. Be a part of the movement to overturn our relationship with these colonizers, with the imperialists. We have to call it for what it is. We go back post what they call the age of exploration. And again, that's how the colonists would define their history, the age of exploration. But in reality, you know, coming from our perspective, it was the age of invasion, right? It was the age of genocide of the indigenous people, the age of enslavement of African people. And this is how we have to describe this. And so join We Charge Colonialism so we can change this relationship, so we can get back to being a sovereign people like we were before before Europeans came to the shores of Africa and came to the Americas importing African bodies. So with that being said, I want to give everybody opportunity, some time to get to our reading. We're going to be reading Marcus Garvey, and the link should be in the chat for the Black Radical Tradition reading. So we're at 2B, and we're going to be reading Marcus Garvey, an appeal to the conscience, an appeal to the conscience of the Black race to see itself. So this is section 2B. This was written in 1923.
What's the page?
The page is 57. 57, page 57.
Okay.
All right, so let's see what Garvey is talking about, one of our great national heroes. It is said to be a hard and difficult task to organize and keep together large numbers of the Negro race for the common good. Many have tried to congregate us, but have failed. The reason being that our characteristics are such as to keep us more apart than together. The evil of internal division is wrecking our existence as a people. And if we do not seriously and quickly move in the direction of a readjustment, it simply means that our doom becomes imminently conclusive. For years, the Universal Negro Improvement Association has been working for the unification of our race, not on domestic national lines only, but universally. The success which we have met in the course of our effort is rather encouraging, considering the time consumed and the environment surrounding the object of our concern. It seems that the whole world of sentiment is against the Negro, and the difficulty of our generation is to extricate ourselves from the prejudice that hides itself beneath as well as above the action of an international environment. Prejudice is conditional on many reasons, and it is apparent that the Negro supplies consciously or unconsciously all the reasons by which the world seems to ignore and avoid him. No one cares for a leopard, for leopards are infectious persons, and all are afraid of the disease. So because the Negro keeps himself poor, helpless, and undemonstrative, it is natural also that no one wants to be of him or with him. Process and humanity. Progress is the attraction that moves humanity into whatever people or race this modern virtue attaches itself. There will you find the splendor of pride and self-esteem, and never fail to win the respect and admiration of all. It is the progress of the Anglo-Saxons that singles them out for the respect of all the world. When their race had no progress or achievement to its credit, then like all other inferior peoples, they paid the price in slavery, bondage, as well as through prejudice. We cannot forget the time when even the ancient Britain was regarded as being too dull to make a good Roman slave, yet today the influence of that race rules the world. It is the industrial and commercial progress of America that causes Europe and the rest of the world to think appreciatively of the Anglo-American race. It is not because 110 million people live in the United States that the world is attracted to the Republic with so much reverence and respect, a reverence and respect not shown to India with its 300 million or to China with its 400 millions. Progress of...
Let's discuss this.
Okay.
Yeah. So what I have gotten from this part of the reading that kept on my mind is what happened during enslavement. It also led to a colonial period and also led to Jim Crow era and also led to police states of the United States and police states of the imperialists, a nation where Black people find themselves. So during the enslavement era, what happened here is, in order to make someone look inferior, you have to deny them of everything that they believe in. Because if you deny them everything that they believe in and they see themselves worthless, you will supersede them and you will overcome them. And that is what happened to our people when they brought them over here. First of all, they denied them everything, their culture that they came with, they took it from them, their name, they took their name from them. Because imagine, name is very powerful. And name represents your character, your attitude, your behavior in our African perspective, in our African culture, in our African setting. So they don't just give you name because they want to give you name like the European, what they just give you in a name. In Africa, if they give you name, that name means a meaning. And you will grow up to perform according to that name they gave you, and you will be according to that name they gave you. So when they brought our people here, they took all of that from them, and then they make our people look inferior, and they make our people not to even identify who they are. And our people became a lost society or a lost people in society. And they did the same thing when they went to colonize Africa. They denied our people their right and they called them inferior. They called them worthless. And they took away their culture and they said your culture, your way of behavior was lesser human being, was a lesser God, and all of these things. And they enforced their behavior into our people. So this particular part of the session is telling us, in order to conquer people, you have to do all of these things. And the European did that. And in order to gain our consciousness back, we have to go back to dig the story who we were before. And that is what we are missing. That is what we need to do.
That's a fact right there. I was thinking the same thing. It's easy to enslave a people, to oppress a people, when you take away their humanity, when you say that this group of people is inferior and needs civilizing, and the way that you do that is you take away their history. But if you study world history, and world history begins with African people, you will see the high level of civilization and development that Africa was making prior to contact. When you look at Europe going through what they call the dark ages of Europe, you had in Africa what many considered the golden ages of Africa, particularly West Africa, when you had empires as vast as all of Europe, where you had a group of Africans who went into Europe, into the Iberian Peninsula, and was actually civilizing them and bringing them literacy. They brought the information, all of what they call the golden age of Europe, going back to Greek civilization, what they call Greek civilization, right? And Roman quote unquote civilization, with these philosophers like Aristotle. All that information was lost. It was the African and Muslim population that went into Europe and brought them that knowledge that gave birth to what what they call the Renaissance. That Renaissance wouldn't happen if it wasn't for African people. And so this is a history that I wasn't told. I wasn't told the contribution that we had made. And so we always think that Africa was uncivilized and backwards prior to their contact with Europeans, which could not be further from the truth. We had universities. We brought universities to Europe. And the final point that I want to make in regards to Africa and its contribution. I lost my train of thought, but I think it's very important though that we know that history that has been taken away from us for a particular reason, because it rationalizes what they do to us. And the last point is that when they do that, they educate. We receive an education. We become indoctrinated. And we go and we look at our own people in Africa as backwards, and we go with the indoctrination that we have. We think that we're supposed to go to Africa and civilize them, and this is what many of African leaders outside of the Africans in the diaspora did. They thought that because they were westernized and evangelized, that they could go to Africa and save the African people because it was the quote unquote dark continent. But yeah, hope I wasn't too long-winded. Did you want to add anything to that before we continue to read, Deja?
No, not at this time.
Okay, so I'm gonna pick up where we left off at. So I left off at progress of and among any people will advance them in the respect and appreciation of the rest of their fellows. It is such a progress that the Negro must attach to himself if he is to rise above the prejudice of the world. The reliance of our race upon the progress and achievements of others for consideration is sympathy, justice, and the rights is like a dependence upon a broken stick resting upon which will eventually consign you to the ground. I want to read that paragraph again because I think that was an important point. It says the reliance of our race upon the progress and achievements of others for consideration and sympathy, justice, and rights is like a dependence upon a broken stick resting upon which will eventually consign you to the ground.
I think we need to discuss that.
Right.
Yeah, that it fits exactly in this contemporary African perspective, what we are dealing with right now, to the extent that we will see the injustice or the injustices against us, but we will still say, you know what, I forgave the person. Let us pray about it. God said we should forgive. How long are we going to forgive? And then we will say, you know what? We are all human beings. And in order for us to move forward, let us forget it and let us get together, put hands together and go. We have come a long way. That is what exactly is going on right there in our little book. We have come a long way because we do not hold people accountable when
think we lost him again. It was that passion, that fire, man. He be burning the internet down over there. Did you want to add anything to that?
I didn't have anything to add at this time. I'm just reading along, of course.
Okay. Yeah, I think like that's a great point that he was making. I guess when he comes back in, he can finish it. But I definitely wanted to read this twice just because I wanted to make sure that we got that, because I think it's important as African people, relying on it. We're in a situation because even today we rely and we are dependent upon the ruling class, whether it's the European ruling class of Europe. I tend to use Europeans and white people interchangeably. But white Americans, waiting for them to get their mind right, to begin to accept Black people Black people's lives, saying accept that it does matter to vote on policies that will actually bring about some sort of equality in this country. Waiting on that is you're standing on a fragile foundation that's going to fall before you find anything that's going to look like semblance of equality in this country. We've been struggling to do this for hundreds of years. Even at the end of chattel slavery, we found ourselves in a situation where we was dependent on the policies and power of the white population. And what did they do? They sat back. We went from Reconstruction to that coming to a failure because two white groups who were in power decided to come together and come with a compromise that will benefit white Southerners at the expense of African people in this country. And so we suffered for the next 100 years as a result of this dependency we had on them, to the point where the behavior or the way of life of Africans in the second-class citizens as a minority became common. It became normalized, became a way of life. It was a part of our culture. And so for 100 years, we sat back until there was a civil rights movement that helped bring about some integration in this society, but it didn't change the power relationship. And so we're still sitting back waiting for the progress of whites, for them to become more progressive and so forth. But go ahead, Frank. I'll let you finish your point.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly what you are saying. And we have been put into this mindset of it was the colonizer that gave us freedom. It was the colonizer that gave us independence. Like they said, Abraham Lincoln freed a slave. And last week, we just read in a chapter that Abraham Lincoln did not free the slave because he had no intention of doing that. He had no intentions of doing that. So what happened here, in order to keep our mind polluted, they will always write the story in a way that's stating that it was because of them we were able to get this. So we always have that kind of mindset that we cannot move on without these people. So in order to move on, we have to have these people involved within our struggle. They are to be the one to make the decision or to pass bill or to pass resolution or to pass this thing. So we always sit back and listen to them when we are in that full potential or area of bringing to us what is right. But we always want to wait for the colonizer to have their final say, and then before we can believe it, to the extent that even our own people do not believe us. They still believe the colonizer. Once the colonizer say it, then that's the final saying.
Man,
the white man's ice, or the ice is colder or something, instead of doing for self and like just actually going with our people and uniting. Or it's almost similar to how like nowadays you hear so many people talk about how, oh, I can't go to Black owned businesses because of this, because of that, but they'll go to other businesses and make them money and do stuff for them that they won't do for themselves or for their community.
Right on. I was thinking the same thing after Frank spoke. We're on page 58. I saw someone ask what page we're on. We're on page 58. So we're going to get in this last few pages if we can. So self-reliance and respect. We're right there on page 58. The Universal Negro Improvement Association teaches our race self-help and self-reliance, not only in one essential, but in all those things that contribute to human happiness and well-being. The disposition of the many to depend upon the other races for a kindly and sympathetic consideration of their needs without making the effort to do for themselves has been the race's standing disgrace by which we have been judged and through which we have created the strongest prejudice against ourselves. There is no force like success, and that is why the individual makes all efforts to surround himself throughout life with the evidence of it. As of the individual, so should it be of the race and nation. The glittering success of Rockefeller makes him a power in the American nation. The success of Henry Ford suggests him as an object of universal respect. But no one knows and cares about the bum or the hobo who is Rockefeller's or Ford's neighbor. So also is the world attracted by the glittering success of races and nations, and pays absolutely no attention to the bum or hobo race that lingers by the wayside. The Negro must be up and doing if he will break down the prejudice of the rest of the world. Prayer alone is not going to improve our condition, nor the policy of watchful waiting. This is coming from a Christian too. Marcus Garvey. We must strike out for ourselves in the course of material achievement and by our own effort and energy present to the world to present, energy present to the world, those forces by which the progress of man is judged. So, you know, Marcus Garvey was a materialist as well. He wasn't just, you know, waiting on the angels. It's 10:51. I guess did anybody want to make any? Let me do this last section. A nation and country. Let's get it in. The Negro needs a nation and a country of his own, where he can best show evidence of his own ability in the art of human progress. Scattered as an unmixed and unrecognized part of alien nations and civilizations is but to demonstrate his imbecility and point him out as an unworthy derelict, fit neither for the society of Greek, Jew, nor Gentile. It is unfortunate that we should so drift apart as a race as not to see that we are but perpetuating our own sorrow and disgrace and failing to appreciate the first great requisite of all people's organization. Organization is a great power in directing the affairs of race or nation toward a given goal. To properly develop the desires that are uppermost, we must first concentrate through some system or method, and there is none better than organization. Hence, the Universal Negro Improvement Association appeals to each and every Negro to throw in his lot with those of us who, through organization, are working for the universal emancipation of our race and the redemption of our common country, Africa. No Negro, let him be American, European, West Indian, or African, shall be truly respected until the race as a whole has emancipated itself through self-achievement and progress from universal prejudice. The Negro will have to build his own government, industry, art, science, literature, and culture before the world will stop to consider him. Until then, we are but wards of a superior race and civilization and the outcasts of a standard social system. The race needs workers at this time, not plagiarists, copyists, and mere imitators, but men and women who are able to create, to originate, and improve, and thus make an independent racial contribution to the world and civilization. Woo! Yo, Marcus Garvey dropped a lot of bars right there. I think if anything, you know, as we near the end, like I think a point that we should take from this is just our need to organize among ourselves and to be creative. It doesn't. Garvey is not saying that we don't build with other races or other nations. That's not what he's saying. But he's saying we have to do for self and build power, build a power base among ourselves. So when we're dealing with other country, we can make demands. We're not coming dependent on other nations. We're coming with something. And so we're dealing with other races and nations on equal footing. So we need to take that. And we're in this because we have looked at Europeans and white people for so long as the standard, even the most educated class among us, right? Quote unquote educated class, because they've been in these schools. They've been in the colonizer's institutions, so they think like the colonizer, and they think that we have to do what the colonizer does in order to attain power, but we don't have to do that. It's not even working for them. And so I think it's important that we become creative, innovative, and develop a system that's going to empower the African nation. But go ahead, Deja. I'm just excited. That's all.
Oh, no, you're good. I understand. Because the most important thing that Garvey has always preached about is we have to build a system to replace a system. We can't just sit up here and fight a system. This is a whole system, and not just a regional system or just like a system like in the United States. It's a global system. If we don't have a global system to defeat that, then I mean, what are we doing? We're doing nothing at that point. We have to build a system, and everybody in that system has different jobs. They have different things that they can do. Everybody has something that they can bring to the table, and not everybody has to do the same thing either. And one thing that Garvey, like you said, we can work with other groups of people, but we have to build our own system. The Chinese, they have their own system. The Jews, they have their own system. All these different groups of people have their own systems. And then we complain because we don't have a system. We don't have a system to even stop them from coming into our communities. So, I mean, it's just important to build our own system, our own stores, everything. We have to start from scratch. And I mean, in parts of the US and parts of Africa, they're doing that. Like we have communities that are doing that. So, I mean, it just takes time.
Indeed. That was the mic drop right there. For sure. Hey,
Yeah.
we lost Frank, but it's all right. But I want to appreciate as we close out, want to appreciate everybody for again tuning in to another episode of We Charge Colonialism podcast and book club. We're here every Saturday at 10 a.m. Deja came through representing. Tierney wasn't able to make it today, but appreciate you, Deja, for taking the time out and being here and having a discussion with us. And everybody, remember, it's one thing to theorize and talk about the problems. We can do that all day. But the importance, as Garvey talked about, organization, organization, building nation, because there's a lot of individuals out there who are, I guess, quote unquote, successful within the confines of a European designed and controlled system, but we don't want that. We want sovereignty as African people, so we can live without the constraints of European idealism and material power that they exercise over our daily lives. So, with that being said, join We Charge Colonialism. And again, appreciate everybody for joining us. And until next week, peace.